It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today is part 2 of finding vitality through simplicity. So last week we went over a couple of pillars or key things to implement when it comes to just living more the way we were designed to live. And it's actually really funny that we're having this episode because this resonates with me heavily in a really heavy season of life for me, and diving too much into work and not being able to regulate effectively, honestly, right now. And the most important things to do in that time period when you feel like I don't know where to turn or I don't know which way is up is to reconnect with these things that we're talking about in this episode, with nature and connection and fueling your body and really just filling your cup in a way that is productive. And I listened to an episode at the gym this morning, which I don't know why I low-key love listening to podcast episodes when I work out, but it was Diary of a CEO, and he had this I forget her title, but it was a pretty recent episode. And they were talking all about dopamine and how in present day that we are, there's this thing that we become softer as a generation, right? And nobody really can explain it. And she was explaining it in a sense of I think that it is so easy for us to get that dopamine hit and to feel that injection of pleasure in social media and all of these things that are so easily accessible. So it's so easy for us to get that. But so then when we feel pain, we're like, oh, I don't like that, right? So we used to have to work so hard to get those dopamine hits and reap the rewards of something, right? Whereas now you just pull it up on your phone or you just do X, Y, and Z, and it's just really accessible. So you had to work harder for that. So pain was honestly more tolerable and more expected, right? Where now it's oh my gosh, why am I feeling this? And then we can go numb it, right? We can numb it so easily.
I also think we've numbed our listening to our instincts, right?
Yes.
I just was listening to something, they were talking about animals, how animals know before a storm's going to come or this or that. And I was thinking what if we didn't have all of this artificial stuff, all of these numbing things around us all the time? I bet our instincts, our intuition, when people talk about intuitive eating, do you even know what nourishing your body feels like? Because we eat mindlessly on the go and in front of a TV, and we don't know because we're constantly numbing all the time. So it's the dopamine hits and it's the simple band-aids that we're putting over actually sitting in our discomfort. Yeah.
Well, and it was interesting. They talked about a study too, where it's and this study I think is pretty well known with rats, where they push the button and they were very easily addicted to cocaine, right? So they knew all right, push the button, I get my cocaine. And then when they took the cocaine away, obviously for a little bit, the rats would push the button, and then they realized, all right, I'm not getting cocaine out of this anymore. So they stopped doing it. And then the next part of the experiment was there was some type of pain that the rat experienced, something with their leg or whatever. And the second they felt that pain, the cocaine wasn't brought back, but they went back to seek that relief. So when you develop these tendencies, it addiction, right? You go back to that thing in your brain that oh, I got relief from that, even if it's harmful, right, in the long run.
It could be the simplest thing of my relief that I seek is, oh my gosh, I'm just stressed and overwhelmed and I feel like I was pouring into other people all day, and now I finally got the kids down to bed. I'm going to cover up that feeling of exhaustion by numbing in front of the TV, right? It doesn't need to be some dramatic, I need just wine to cover. Mechanism. It's any coping mechanism. We have all of these things that are just mild numbers that make us not feel. So we're bringing you back to the basics. Episode 1 on this topic, we went over pillar 1 was light and circadian rhythm. Pillar 2 was breath work and recovery and slowing down and having rest, not being overstimulated all the time. Maybe I skipped one. Pillar 2 was movement, and then that was pillar 3. So pillar 2 was just moving our bodies we used to have to farm or hunt and gather, and now we need gyms in order to move more because we're just sitting all day, right? So we're picking up where we left off. Pillar 4, we wanted to talk about real food versus engineered food. And I think that there's a lot of divisiveness around this where people pick a side and say, well, just because it's natural doesn't mean it's healthy, or just because it's processed doesn't mean it's not going to help somebody. We agree with that, right? Just like the gym being a tool, it doesn't mean gyms are evil because they were placed here to get us to move more. Protein shakes were invented to help people get protein more because we struggle with that. Fiber supplements because people don't need enough fiber. But at the end of the day, if you prioritize real food that looks like the plant or animal it came from, you will have a far better time getting more of your nutrient needs, your micronutrients, your macronutrients, your proteins, and your fibers. You will tend to not over consume calories as much because you become more satisfied when you eat more of those nutrients that we just talked about. So eating things that look like the plant or animal they grew on, if you want to take it to another level, you could look at all the societies that eat seasonally, right? They grow the things that they eat instead of putting sprays and chemicals and preservatives on them to ship them across the world so that we can consume them in a gluttonous way, right? So just keeping it simple and adding nourishment versus thinking, oh, I'm going to have protein cereal and I need these protein pastries and I need some sort of fiber snack. Like, no, just eat real food for a couple months and watch your cognition get better, your gut get better, your energy levels get better, your sleep will improve. All of these, like, food is chemicals. You guys, if you have a headache, a lot of people will just, without thinking about it, put ibuprofen or Tylenol in their mouth, right? That's a chemical that makes a trickle down response in our body. Okay, food does the same thing. We put it in our mouths and it has trickle down responses in our body. Treat it like medicine and it can actually heal you if you have a variety of different nutrients. Also, by eating more real food, you're going to have less inflammation. You're going to have more like appetite regulation. A lot of times we have these hyper palatable foods where they've added artificial sweeteners. Okay, well, if you're comparing a Coke to a Coke Zero, yes, the Coke Zero is going to help you not be in a caloric surplus as much, right? It's got less calories than the regular Coca-Cola. Both send our brain the same signal that I'm tasting sweet things and now I want more sweet things, right? So, though that's not an imaginary factor, just because the calories aren't going to contribute to the calorie in, calorie out game, there's a behavioral component to you continuing to crave and reach for more sweet stuff, right? So I love the activity. If you guys have listened to us, you know we are not pro dieting. But I love the concept of doing a Whole30 diet for a month so that you can learn how good your body feels when it just eats real stuff. Do an experiment and eat a Mediterranean or a Whole30 type diet and see how you feel. Don't do it as I'm going to do this to lose weight and then I'll go back to normal eating after. No, do it so that you can learn to play with healthy foods and learn to cook them in different ways and learn new recipes. What ends up happening is at the end of a month, you pick up a handful of blueberries and they actually taste sweet again because you haven't been pumping your face with artificial sweet stuff for however many weeks. So yeah, there's lots and lots of value to just eat food that looks like food.
And I think that sometimes, like, that advice in theory sounds good, right? Like, okay, I don't have to stress about counting calories or cutting carbs or taking something away or avoiding something. It's really more of like, what can you add to your day, right? We always communicate that. But I do want to, sometimes I think even that can feel very like broad, general, overwhelming. Like, where do I start? And something that like I started doing, I always like personality trait that I claimed was like, I don't cook. I don't like to cook. And honestly, I've really just never given myself the time or space to do it, or learn it, right? It's a skill ultimately. And, one of the things that I've been doing to, disconnect in my day. So like my transition from work, which sounds pretty logical when I say these things, but coming from somebody who can be glued to her chair for 16 hours straight and feel nothing. At the end of my workday, I have started to implement a cutoff time. And then that cutoff time is my husband and I go to the kitchen and cook something together. So now we have no screens. I have a way to transition from my workday to my family life and being present. And I'm spending quality time with my husband. And how was your day? And like genuinely how you would envision like a day-to-day going, right? Of like being with your family, sitting down and having a meal. And it sounds silly, but like that's been really helpful for us.
And you're checking several of these different boxes at the same time by doing that, right? You're
Yeah.
building the social connection with your kid and your
And then
husband.
same thing on Sundays. We have like gathered recipes together. We get the groceries, and then Sunday we spend about 2 hours meal prepping right now for the week. And that's just what works for us. Do I want to spend those 2 hours doing other things? Of course I do. Don't we all? Right. But I just told Jess that we are actually doing a 30-day like TV detox in our house. I have no doubt it'll be one, uncomfortable, but two, and also like no scrolling TikTok, Instagram, whatever at night. I have no doubt that we will magically feel like we have a ton of additional time in our day. And I think that we normalize a lot of that and lack, and it's not even intentional, right? It's almost just ignorance of what you typically do with scrolling and disconnecting and whatever. It feels like your relaxed time. But I guarantee that we will be like, wow, we have a lot more time in our days than we thought we did. So
And you start to get your power and your control back in your life when you realize, I mean, I've been trying to leave my phone in the other room when I'm with my kids so like last night we were coloring on the floor together. The itch that I had to go check my phone is not healthy. Like, why am I like, oh, I should go like that I went to the bathroom or I went to get water or something and I saw my phone on the counter and like went to grab it on the way back. And I was like, what a ridiculous thing. This thing owns me. If that's my instinct is to check it on my way back, I'm not going to check it. And setting little challenges like that for yourself, whether it is screens, whether it is processed food, whatever, for a certain amount of time, it's almost like a fast. The value is not, oh, I'm going to lose weight. The value is that you start to actually hear your own hunger signals again, right? So I start to realize, oh, whoa, this thing is controlling me, not my own willpower, right? So yeah, no, I think and right now I think it's actually really good timing. I've had a few clients this week share similar goals because Lent started yesterday. So I have some clients who are also doing like no social media through Lent, or I have one who I love this idea too. Rather than removing something for Lent, she's choosing to add a 30-minute walk every morning, right? So what's the thing that you're going to be more intentional about?
yeah.
Okay, pillar 5, and we covered this a little with breath work, breathing, but rest is not weakness, okay? We glorify exhaustion, and we talked about this imaginary urgency that we put around things. If at the end of the day, everything crumbled around us, what would we actually prioritize? Like time with our family, getting a roof over our head, or meals on the table. Like we would not prioritize all of this, push, go, 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 build more, greater, right? Me and Jill were just talking about this. She is a super A+ businesswoman who always is thinking growth. And it's like, okay, at some point, at what expense, right? We need to make sure that we're not chronically undersleeping. We use things like caffeine to numb and mask that sleep debt rather than listening to our bodies. And again, I'm the most guilty of this, where it's like, well, day 2 of being really tired and I don't have time to take a nap today because I've scheduled all these work calls. So I'm just going to caffeine through it. And then that's going to ruin my sleep for tomorrow. I'm borrowing future energy, which is not how my body was made to operate. I shouldn't be masking those signals. Instead, I should be sleeping, and then it'll make everything else be more clear.
Yeah. No, I love that, that saying of like borrowing your future energy, because I think so many people get in that cycle of, you work late or you do whatever too long. And then you're like, shoot, I have less time for this thing. So then it's like, all right, well, I'll do this. And then now I need to unwind and relax. So I need to scroll. And then it's crept into your sleep time. And now you can't fall asleep because you're overstimulated. And now you're like, shit, I'm exhausted, but I have to wake up at 6. And now you wake up and you're going to work exhausted and you're less productive. And you're like, shit, I have this project, but I got to get it done. So now I got to work late. Right. And you're like, holy shit, I've created this cycle. And
something has to give.
Yeah, something has to give. And honestly, I'm like describing my own life at the moment. I will say that like, I think it's like, I think so many women that I talk to, have so much self-awareness, and they're like, they feel like they're in tune with their body, but they're in tune with the fact that they don't feel good, but they're not in tune with their body in any sense of, what does my body need? What can I provide my body? And I think that's the disconnect is, you are aware of it, but you're not doing anything about it. And then you complain about it and it's like, okay, but you're not changing anything. Right. So,
and it's out of comfort.
Yeah.
It's very easy to stay numb and stay allowing I want to say habits, but like these routines are now running us. We're not running our day. So to be very intentional, we make so many choices throughout the day, and a lot of these choices are made for us based on our prior choices and these loops that we get stuck in. Get yourself out of the loop and think, can I be intentional through every single choice this day? Or if anything, can I intentionally make a couple choices that used to be loops so that I can start to train that brain muscle to make more and more intentional choices? Maybe for me, it's not grabbing the V8 energy drink at 10 a.m. for 3 days in a row. Okay, cool. Now I think I can make a different choice. Like whatever the next automatic thing is, but you can build that. Like willpower and these neural pathways in our brain are like muscles that you can build and strengthen with time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then speaking of nervous system and just your mental load and capacity, I feel this deeply right now. I am, I have a history of ADHD, anxiety, all of these things. And I feel that I can get carried away. It's funny. I actually just had a DNA test with one of the girls who works on our field team, and it was all about like gene expression. And she was like, all right, you actually aren't susceptible to ADHD, anxiety, whatever, but you are susceptible to binging certain tendencies. And of course, if you binge certain tendencies, that can ultimately create anxiety, right? So it's just a different way of that being expressed. So I say that because what we have kind of like in our notes here is that we use Slack for our team, right? I actually use Slack for like multiple businesses and things that I'm in. So I'm constantly toggling literally between different organizations within my Slack app, right? And those pings feel stressful to me and to my nervous system, right? And it's not that they're even bad, right? They could be just a minor thing, but they're so triggering because I'm so dysregulated with my nervous system. That is how I wreaked havoc on my body and was in a state of complete hormone dysfunction and ended up with Hashimoto's back in 2021 because I was not aware or in tune or able to recognize what was actually happening to make a change in the moment, which I recognize it now and I'm making a change. But there's this you might have heard this example before, but like your nervous system doesn't know the difference between like an actual acute in the moment danger and these chronic things that we experience as stressors day to day that build up, right? So I'm sitting at my computer. If somebody breaks in my house, I'm obviously going to go into fight or flight, right? But your body can live in a chronic state of that. And I do think that that concept is a little, I don't know, maybe overused or we're quick to say we're in that point. If you're in it though, certainly. So I think it's important to, again, have awareness around something that you're experiencing and be in tune with your body in that sense. But then also one of the things that I'm really proud of myself for is being self-aware enough to say, you put yourself in this fucking mess again, and now you've got to crawl your way back out, right? So now I'm in this place of anxiety that I haven't felt in months or years, right? I'm spiraling at night. EMDR is taking me a really long time to process certain things right now because she's like, you're not in a place to do this today, which then pisses me off more, right? Because I'm like, Jesus, I'm here trying to heal.
But it's on my checklist.
Yeah.
I need to check.
You won't even let me fucking heal. I'm literally paying you every week to heal. And she's like, no, you're not regulated enough to be able to like open this thing up and do this effectively. So it is interesting that, every time I find myself in a position, in a situation of this feels hard, this feels far away, any type of negative emotion in my life, it 100% of this time always stems back to me not regulating and not recovering enough. And I think so many people can resonate with that. And when I say that, it doesn't mean I don't lay on the couch at night and before bed, but I'm never not stimulated. And I think that's part of the culture, right? And that adds stress. You scrolling TikTok and doom scrolling, like I saw something, it was very negative video. I'm like, how is this on the internet? And I'm like, gosh, we are so desensitized to things that we should not be exposed
ever
to
seeing, ever.
Yeah.
And our kids have phone, like my kid doesn't, thank goodness we're not at that age to have to make decisions about phones yet. But like your kids are exposed to this stuff. What's that going to do to their brains if it's corrupting our brains in this way that we can't function because we're so stressed? So
Yeah, like we can't even
I think
regulate ourselves, and then we ask them to regulate, and
you're
it's too
talking
much.
about like doom scrolling and like numbing to some extent, but also like using discernment when it comes to our mental diet of if you choose to watch TV, what is it positive or is it going, is it, even if it's a fictional show, if I watch right now we're going back, this is a show from a while ago, but we're watching Homeland right now, and it's like that's not like a bad, like it's not a terrible show, but if I go to bed after I watch that, I'm more wound up than if I watch something that was like HGTV lighthearted, right?
Right.
Again, that's like one very easy example, but like when I had
That's
children,
actually such a good point because I can be really emotionally invested in a show. And no joke, if I'm in a state that I'm in now where I feel like I need a screen to fall asleep, I'll turn on baking. I'll fall asleep in 5 fucking minutes when I turn on baking.
and
'Cause I'm
again,
like,
it's like it's
yeah,
still a like stimulus having a screen and
right.
lights in front of you, but like use discernment on what you're allowing your brain to let in and out. And again, the extremes right now with the news across the world are terrifying. It's horrible stuff. But I do that before having children. I used to love like serial killer podcasts and true crime shows
Same.
and
I
stuff.
totally
After
stopped.
having kids, I could not handle it because instantly my brain jumps to, oh my gosh, if this was my child. Like I physically, so I just don't watch that kind of stuff anymore. I can't. Like me
Yeah.
and Brett used to watch Criminal Minds. That's a fictional show, but what it does to my nervous system is not healthy for me. So I don't watch that anymore. Right. So using discernment and allow good stuff into your brain, just like you would allow good stuff into your body.
Yeah, it's interesting too that one of the things I love about living in Boise this last year is that it's very connection based. There are so many mom groups and girls groups. There's a coffee shop that has Friday night prayer, and there's like all of these things that are. It's funny. I went to the coffee shop and I was like, why can't I find a plug for my laptop? Like this is kind of annoying. And the owner explained it, and she was like, I know that everyone needs outlets, but like this space was very intentionally created for people to connect and talk to each other and
Not
be a human. And I was like, okay,
wow.
like fair, it's your business, right? So it's just interesting. There's a lot of
That's
just
cool.
like nature and connection. And it's one of the things I love so much about living here because I think that's if I have described living here as more of what it felt like when I was a kid, where the kids just go
Play
out,
outside.
the street lights turn on, and it's dark. Mason's at the park until dark, right? They're just out. He's like, I'm like, where are you? And he's like, oh, we're building a fort in the creek. I'm like, okay, whatever, like
It's very
great,
different from
that
like
sounds
East
good.
Coast
Yeah,
hustle culture.
yeah.
And so we're talking about mental stuff. And I feel like if you guys listen to us because you're like, well, I listen to you for physique change, all of this stuff impacts chronic stress and allostatic load and has trickle downs to inflammation, to hormone disruption, to metabolism, to poor sleep, to fatigue, to cravings. All of this stuff is super health related. Like if you can prioritize these 7 things we're talking about in these 2 episodes, your entire health, like I don't know what to call it, but like
Trajectory.
yeah, like your foundation that you're working on is going to be so much healthier. This is preventative health. This stuff will
Yeah.
prevent disease. This stuff will allow you to have a healthy physical body that you live in. And it's that simple. Again, we have all these tools that we can use. That's what we do for a living. We help provide people with specific tools for their roadblocks because one person is not willing to slow down at her job. Another person is not able to cut back on this one thing, right? So everybody's lifestyle is different and we're going to meet them where they are. However, at the end of the day, if all of us did these 7 things, we wouldn't need it, right?
Yeah.
So
I
it
think
all
that's a
does
good
go back
point.
to
Like
health.
stress is such a chronic driver, and stress is a big bucket. Stress can be
Yeah.
so many things. And people are like, well, my job is stressful. I'm not asking you to quit your job or change it, right? But I am telling you to not do the things in the evening that are causing more stress or not allowing you to
What are the
recover.
controllables?
Yeah, exactly. And then also too, like again, pot, kettle, whatever you want to call me right now. But like, I'm in a gut protocol right now. And I was just telling Jess before we connected, I'm like, I'm in this cycle of like triggered by work. I'm letting myself watch too much TV. I'm now in a gut protocol, which is like any level of like detoxing or cleaning stuff out of your body is like more of a stressor on your body, right? So like, I have to give myself space to do those things. Same with like EMDR. I'm in the thick of it. I'm heavily processing other shit right now. So I have to be mindful of my allostatic load and all of the other stressors in my life where I am at a point where I got to cut back at work or it's going to be a problem, right? So my stress and my work focus led me to probably making more convenience food choices, heavily relying on caffeine more. XY, like I think I actually got E. coli and food poisoning from eating out. And now here I am in the fucking throes of a gut protocol, right? And now I feel cortisol dysregulation. And then you're in months, right? All these women are like, well, cortisol is holding me back. Well, gut's holding me back. Well, it's important to know what drove you to that point, right? Because my decisions and the way that I've been living my life these last couple of months put me in a position to need a gut protocol and put me in a position to now have to really dial back work and regulate myself again. That's fine, right? We're not perfect and we can't all live a perfect life, but you have to remember that something in your life is driving this dysfunction. So circling back to what Jess said, that if we, in a perfect world, right, we would all eat every 3 hours and eat only plants and whole foods and animal meat, and we would get 10,000 steps a day and we would wake up with the sun and go to sleep with the sun and no devices or blue light after, like all of that's not realistic, right? The point is that just knowing these are simplifying your life and like living with true vitality dials back to all this shit you see on the internet is irrelevant. Like it dials back to these things. And if you do these things,
Turn off the internet and go outside.
Everything will be so much better in your life, truly.
So pillar 7, I feel like you just touched on this in the last one, is local impact over global exposure, right? Again, I think I talked about this at the beginning of last episode, but part of what made us want to do this episode is because I'm absorbing all the stuff that's going on in the world right now. And I'm like, it's debilitating in terms of the level of stress. And at the end of the day, what we can control is our personal impact on the people around us and our community. And then that does have ripple effects to improve the world. Just because this drives me nuts. I've seen so many posts lately about if you're a business owner and you're not saying what side you stand on, I'm not supporting your business. Like, why not just go impact your local community? Because honestly, at the end of the day, is that helping anything, or is it just adding more noise that everybody's angry? Like the energy that I want to put into the world, I would like it to be positive and impactful, not just more chatter of complaining to each other, right? So how can we do that? By taking care of ourselves, because we can't pour from an empty cup, right? So first, I need to get back to not numbing me. Second, making a local impact, being present with my children, saying hi to the guy who was sitting next to me. There's like an 80-year-old guy this morning at LabCorp when I got blood drawn, having a conversation with a neighbor, right? Like something like that versus staring at my phone in the waiting room. Being present, getting outside and taking a walk or a hike. Those are the things that are going to be more healthy for you versus constantly being inundated with this information. And then what can you do? Then you can go volunteer at a local food shelter, or you can join a community club or church or group or the coffee house that Jill's talking about, right? Then you can, it's going to improve your mental health, but you're also actually going to be able to have a better impact on the world by doing that. And this stuff, again, this is mental health, but this is very much physical health. One of the biggest determinants to longevity is social connection. So volunteer locally, know your neighbors, coach some kids' sports, bring meals to somebody, go to a church and serve. Like these are the things that are actually going to help you live a long, healthy life. So act locally versus doom scrolling or feeling like everything's pointless. Everything's not pointless if you go down the street and have a conversation with somebody. Most people are good. So that is that. So those are our pillars. This is not in any particular order, but to recap, we kind of wanted to give you guys a challenge similar to what Jill's doing. I haven't come up with my specific goal yet, but she's removing television from their house for the next month. I'm going to come up with a similar one. We want to give you guys like a back to the basics type challenge. So it might be something like morning sunlight within the first 30 minutes of waking up and not looking at your phone for the first hour. It might
That's
be
also something that I'm doing is that I do not get that dopamine hit. You have to get up out of fucking bed and give yourself 10 minutes before you touch your phone. So that is very helpful for me already.
It might be going for a walk after dinner with your whole family. It might be not buying protein enriched stuff and saying, I'm going to have a plant and a protein with each, like a plant and a real protein with each meal or snack. It might be lights out by 10 p.m. and I'm going to plug my phone in the bathroom so that I'm not even tempted to turn over and look at what time it is, right? It might be no news or no scrolling. So pick a thing, and for now, do it for 7 days. Again, usually the first 2 or 3 days, you're going to feel that itch. After your body starts to regulate a little bit, you're going to start to feel so good that you want to then add on a second one or a third one or continue it.
I think that's a great point, actually. So day 3 to 6 are generally the hardest, where you are so uncomfortable and you're like, oh, maybe this is bad for me. Go through that, because we do this with clients in their flushes, even with just caffeine, right? They're like, this is life ruining. And then on the other side, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so good.
I've never had so much energy. I don't need it anymore. I feel more cognitively clear.
Not saying anyone has to give up their caffeine, but it certainly could help if you want to love on your nervous system. Choose the thing that you want to, choose the thing you want to reduce, where you're not just going through the motions. You're being intentional. So the 7 pillars, again, to kind of go over it: circadian rhythm and following light cycles. So morning light, screens off before bed, consistent sleep and rest, daily movement and aiming to get strong. We talked about this a little bit, but breath work. So actually breathing, slowing down, just being, versus I got to do, or think about my next thing. Practice. Meditation is a practice. Practice turning your brain off and just observing. Whole foods. So again, I mentioned this, but maybe adding a protein and a plant at each meal. And we want them to look like the plant or animal they came from, not our overly bastardized, processed versions of those things. Use discernment on what goes into your brain, what information, what images, what TV and news, what things are you allowing in? And then creating meaningful connection, whether within your household, cooking dinner with your family, or within your local community. You can make an impact in that way. So turn off the global doom and gloom, and you'll be able to make a more positive, meaningful impact in your life. Love it. We're just trying to create a world of healthy, proactive, regulated humans. World peace.
Boom. And it starts
One little
inside of
podcast
ourselves.
at a time.
Honestly, it starts inside of ourselves. It's so much more simple. And again, we have all of these advanced protocols and this and that. And it's because we are fighting this uphill battle, finding tools for the simple things people aren't willing to take on necessarily. Get back to the basics, move, listen to your body, fight and overcome. We are all capable of overcoming these little mental loops that we're stuck in. You don't have to be stuck. You're going to be uncomfortable for a few days or even a few weeks, depending on what that addiction is. But you're going to be so much healthier for it on the other side, and you're going to be able to show up better for the people that you love.
And last night in my late night stupor, where I was like, enough is enough, I actually created a broadcast channel on Instagram, and I am going to share what I'm doing. And I didn't even mean for it to like tie in so directly to this episode. I honestly kind of forgot about it. But if you want to participate or have some accountability or just be in that bubble, you can join it right at the top of my Instagram profile. And I'm just going to share how I'm resetting myself and whatever else comes to my brain. So that is all for today's episode, and we will see you guys next time.